Welcome to Living Ideas. In the tropical rainforest of Vietnam, heavy rain falls through layers of green leaves, turning the forest floor into mud and making every step harder. But beneath a giant rock, one man finds a dry pocket of shelter. From forest vines he weaves a basket. From soil and water he makes natural mortar. And from stones gathered by hand he slowly builds walls, a bed, a stove, a path, a garden, and a small way of life beside the stream. Later, he saws his own wooden boards, builds a small porch roof, improves the garden, and carefully prepares wooden boxes to attract wild bees for honey, turning this hidden shelter into a living, self-sufficient home. He moves slowly through the wet forest until he finds a giant rock leaning out from the hillside. Its upper surface sheds rain naturally, while the space below remains partly dry. He pauses and studies it carefully. A good shelter is not only about what stands above you. It is also about the ground below, the wind around it, and the way water moves during a storm. He begins by clearing wet branches from the entrance area. Some have fallen from the rain, while others are tangled with vines and grass. He pulls them away one by one, opening a clearer path beneath the rock. This gives him room to move, reduces tripping hazards, and helps air pass through the front of the shelter. Loose stones are scattered under the rock and around the entrance. He gathers them neatly to one side instead of throwing them away. In this project, nothing useful is wasted. Large stones may become the base of the walls. Small stones may fill gaps. Flat stones may later become the bed surface, the floor, or the path to the stream. With the stones cleared, he takes a shovel and begins leveling the wet ground. High spots are scraped down. Low areas are filled. Soft mud is pushed away from the center. This step may look ordinary, but it decides how stable everything will be later. The walls, the bed, the stove, and even the way he walks inside the shelter. Next, he takes out a hammer and chisel. Some parts of the rock wall are too narrow, so he begins removing small pieces, one strike at a time. He is not trying to break the giant rock. He only removes what is necessary: sharp edges, tight corners, and small protrusions that make the space harder to use. As more small pieces fall away, the interior begins to open. There is more room to stand, more room to turn, and more room to plan. This careful shaping makes daily life easier later. A shelter is not only a place to hide from rain. It must also allow cooking, resting, storage, and movement. Before carrying heavy materials, he searches for strong forest vines. The rain has made them flexible, but they are still tough enough to hold weight. He chooses vines that bend without snapping and strips away weaker sections. A good basket begins with good material. If the vines fail, every trip with soil or stone becomes harder. He begins weaving the vines into a small back basket. The base is tightened first, then the sides slowly rise. Each strand is pulled into place by hand. The basket must be light enough to carry, but strong enough to hold wet soil and stone. In a project built by hand, a simple tool like this becomes essential. Once the basket is finished, he checks the bottom, the sides, and the straps across his shoulders. A weak tool wastes energy. A strong one saves it. Testing it now prevents problems later, when the load is heavier and the muddy ground makes every step more difficult. With the basket on his back, he begins carrying soil toward the shelter. The soil is heavy because of the rain, but its moisture also makes it easier to shape. This soil will become natural mortar, the binding material for the stone walls. Each load brings the wall one step closer, even before a single stone is placed. He mixes soil with water until it becomes thick, smooth, and workable. There is no cement here, no modern bagged material, just earth, water, and hands. This natural mortar will fill gaps, lock stones together, and help block wind-driven rain. In this shelter, the ground itself becomes the glue that holds the home together. He starts the first wall with large stones at the bottom. The heavy base helps the wall resist shifting over time. Each stone is pressed into the mortar, tested by hand, and adjusted until it sits firmly. The first row is slow, but it matters most. Everything above it depends on how carefully it is placed. The stones are not perfect. Some fit almost naturally. Others must be turned again and again before they find their place. When a gap appears, he fills it with mortar and smaller stones. This patient fitting makes the wall tighter, stronger, and better at resisting the damp wind that moves through the rainforest. Layer by layer, the walls begin to rise. The open space beneath the rock slowly becomes more private and protected. The walls do more than close the room. They block wind, hold warmth, reduce moisture, and make the shelter feel safer during heavy rain. Every stone adds weight. Every layer adds comfort. Inside the shelter, he begins shaping the base for a stone bed. He chooses the driest part beneath the rock, away from the places where rainwater might reach. The surface is leveled carefully so the bed will not tilt or shift. A dry place to sleep is essential here. In the rainforest, rest begins with staying off the wet ground. He carries soil using a woven basket and dumps it onto the bed area before carefully leveling the surface. This process creates a firmer and more stable foundation for the sleeping space, improves drainage, and provides a more comfortable and durable resting area for long-term survival. Next to his bed, he constructs a raised platform with a structure similar to the sleeping area, but designed to serve as a storage and work table. This elevated space keeps tools, food, and essential supplies organized and off the ground, reducing exposure to moisture and dirt while making daily survival tasks more efficient and convenient. He adds more rocks and soil to the construction area to create a level and solid surface. The rocks reinforce the foundation and reduce the risk of sinking, while the soil fills gaps and smooths out uneven sections. This method improves the structure's stability and provides a more practical and comfortable space for survival activities. To finish the bed surface, he walks down to the stream and collects thin, flat stones. These stones are smoother than the rough rocks near the shelter because flowing water has shaped them over time. He carries them back carefully. They will become the top layer of the bed, creating a cleaner and flatter place to rest. Each thin stone is placed on the bed by hand. If one rises too high, he moves it. If another sinks too low, he adds soil underneath. The goal is not softness, but stability. In a wilderness shelter, comfort does not come from luxury. It comes from solving small problems well. He uses a cloth to thoroughly wipe down the surface of the bed, removing dust, dirt, and debris left behind from the construction process. This step creates a cleaner resting area, improves comfort, and helps prevent dirt from contaminating bedding and personal belongings. The area next to the bed is also carefully paved with stones to create a sturdy platform for storing supplies and equipment. Once the work is complete, he wipes the entire surface clean, removing dust and leftover debris. This dedicated storage space helps keep essential items organized, dry, and easily accessible whenever they are needed. To support his cooking needs, he cuts a suitably sized log and carries it back to the shelter. Gathering and transporting this material is the first step in crafting essential tools, making effective use of natural resources available in the survival environment. Using a hammer and chisel, he carefully hollows out the inside of the log, gradually shaping it into a shallow wooden trough. This process transforms a raw piece of wood into a practical tool that can be used for holding food, preparing ingredients, or assisting with cooking tasks in a survival setting. However, fire cannot directly touch the wooden surface as it may cause burning or damage the tool. Therefore, he applies a thick layer of natural mortar inside the wooden trough. This coating acts as a heat-resistant barrier, protecting the wooden structure while allowing the tool to withstand heat during survival cooking use. He brings a log back to the living area to turn it into a simple stool. Using a natural piece of wood saves time and effort, while providing a stable seating option suitable for resting or performing survival tasks. With the first cooking area prepared, he returns to the forest for food and materials. He collects young bamboo shoots for a meal and cuts bamboo tubes for traps. One plant gives him both food and a tool. That is the value of understanding the forest. Ordinary materials become many useful things when used with purpose. Sitting on a rock by the stream, he carefully peels off the outer layer of the freshly harvested bamboo shoots. Processing them near a clean water source helps maintain hygiene while removing the tough outer fibers, preparing the ingredients for further cooking steps in a survival meal. The bamboo tubes are prepared into simple stream traps. Small openings allow water to pass through while guiding fish, loaches, or crabs inside. The design is light, natural, and easy to place between stones. A trap like this does not require force. It relies on position, patience, and the movement of the stream. Using worms as bait, he places the traps along calm edges of the stream. He avoids fast current because it could move the traps or wash the bait away. Instead, he chooses quiet pockets near stones, where small creatures naturally hide. This careful placement gives him a better chance of catching food while keeping the stream mostly undisturbed. Returning to the shelter in the quiet heart of the forest, he lights the fire. The flame rises and slowly brings warmth to the simple cooking space. The bamboo shoots, already carefully cleaned, are placed into the pot one by one. Without haste, he slowly pours in the clear rainwater he has collected, letting every element come together naturally. Beside the pot, he prepares another kettle, continuing to gather rainwater, making full use of every small gift nature provides. The fire steadies. Heat spreads through the space. The soft crackle of burning wood blends with the gentle simmer of boiling water. The meal is not elaborate, not excessive, yet within its simplicity lies a rare sense of completeness. Water comes from the sky. Food comes from the forest. Fire comes from the hands of man. And here, in the vastness of nature, nothing is wasted, and nothing is taken for granted. Once cooked, the bamboo shoots become tender, releasing a light aroma of forest and steam. He calmly prepares a simple meal beside the steady glow of the fire. The boiled bamboo shoots are eaten together with a canned fish he brought with him. Simple, yet nutritious enough to restore energy after a long day of work in the wild. Alongside it is a warm cup of tea. The steam rises slowly, blending into the cool forest air, bringing a rare sense of calm within the harsh rhythm of survival life. Nothing fancy, nothing excessive. Yet every bite and every sip carries a quiet sense of completeness, of self-reliance, and harmony with nature. After eating, he rests on the stone bed. The bed is firm, dry, and stable. The shelter is still unfinished, but it already gives him a place to recover. In the wild, rest is not separate from work. It is part of the process. Without rest, there is no strength for the next wall, the next fire, or the next day. The next morning, the air is still heavy with lingering rain, damp and cold, wrapping the forest in a long silence. He returns to work, without delay, without unnecessary rest. One large stone after another is moved aside, slowly, deliberately. Each rock placed down clears a little more space. Then he picks up the hammer and chisel. The protruding stones, hard, sharp, obstructing, are addressed one by one. Each strike falls in a steady rhythm, no rush, no wasted force. Only repetition and patience as layers of stone break away and rough edges gradually disappear. The space begins to change, no longer cramped, no longer chaotic. From lifeless stone, a new living area is being carved out, slowly, steadily, through persistence. He seals the remaining gaps inside the shelter. Each space between stones and soil is filled with natural material and firmly packed to strengthen the structure. The work is done slowly but steadily, ensuring no openings remain for wind or water to enter. The interior becomes more enclosed, stable, and better protected from the outside weather. He uses a shovel to precisely mark the position of the front wall, outlining the structure's boundary. Then he digs a trench to create the initial foundation, ensuring stability from the very first stage of construction. Next, he sets wooden stakes to define the pathway, organizing the layout of the space. Once everything is aligned, he begins laying the first stones, one by one, forming the early shape of the wall. He presses more mortar into the gaps between the stones. This sealing work is slow, but important. In heavy rain, small gaps can let water and wind inside. By closing them carefully, he makes the room warmer, drier, and more private. The front wall now becomes more than stone. It becomes protection. In one corner of the shelter, he builds a stronger stone stove for long-term use. The stones hold heat better than bare soil, while mortar seals the gaps and helps guide smoke upward. This makes the fire more efficient and the space more livable. A good stove means warm food, dry air, saved firewood, and comfort during cold forest nights. He shapes the main entrance at the front of the shelter. The opening must be wide enough to move through, but not so large that rain and wind can easily enter. This balance matters. A good entrance allows daily use while still protecting the inside. It is the line between the wet forest outside and the dry room inside. Small window openings are planned into the stone wall. They allow air to move, light to enter, and smoke to clear more easily when the stove is used. Without openings, the stone shelter would feel sealed and heavy. With them, it begins to breathe. Air, light, and warmth all need a path. He places a long stone across the top of the passage, not randomly, but as a stable support for the structure above. The stone rests there, heavy, silent, like a natural beam holding the space beneath it. Then he continues building. Each stone is lifted, set down, adjusted, pressed tightly into place, layer by layer. The wall begins to rise. No rush, no misalignment, only the steady repetition of hands and focused eyes. The goal is clear, to bring the wall up to meet the large rock above. When that happens, the rock will no longer be just a natural mass. It becomes a roof, a part of the structure, a natural shield for the passage below. And from scattered stone, a structure slowly takes shape, stronger, tighter, and more intentional. The chimney is built higher and higher, layer by layer, stone by stone, lifted, placed, aligned. The smoke path becomes clearer, more stable, more directed. When it reaches the required height, he pauses. At the top, he sets a thin stone slab, not sealing it, covering it, blocking the rain, preventing water from falling directly into the stove, but leaving a gap, a small opening, just enough for smoke to escape, for the fire to keep breathing. A small detail, but one that keeps the entire system balanced between protection and airflow. He rekindles the fire in the stove, and the wood slowly catches, the flame stabilizing and spreading warmth throughout the shelter. A small kettle is placed over the fire. The metal heats gradually with each pulse of the flames. Soon, the water inside begins to move. Tiny bubbles appear, rising and breaking gently at the surface. Steam slowly drifts upward, curling within the enclosed space, blending with the dim glow of the fire. No noise, no rush, just the stillness of the forest, and a quiet moment of peace within survival life. He then returns to the stream to check the traps he set earlier. This is always an uncertain task. Some days, the traps are empty, nothing inside. Some days, the water changes after rain, washing everything away. Still, he checks them. He always comes back. This time, inside the bamboo traps placed in the water, he finds mud eels and small crabs. Not many, but enough for a meal. And in the vastness of the forest, enough is often something truly valuable. The mud eels and small crabs are carefully skewered and placed over a steady flame. The fire is not too strong, just enough. Enough to cook and enough to preserve the natural flavor of the food. As the skin begins to change color, a slow aroma spreads through the still forest air. He does not rush. Each eel is turned slowly, evenly roasted over the glowing coals. Then he uses fresh wild beetle leaves he has just gathered. The leaves are still green, carrying a slightly sharp forest scent. He wraps the grilled eel in the beetle leaves and places it back over the fire. The heat gently tightens the leaves, releasing a layered aroma, grilled meat, wild herbs, and wood smoke blending together. The space feels still, almost paused, broken only by the soft crackle of fire. Nearby, the small crabs are grilled as well, their shells turning red under the flame. No table, no elaborate setup, only earth, fire, and what the forest provides. The meal is simple, but deep. The eel wrapped in betel leaves carries a light richness, the aroma of the forest, and the taste of smoke. Each bite is not just to satisfy hunger, but the result of an entire day's journey. The next day, he begins collecting thin, flat stones to pave the floor of the living area. This is not a quick task. Flat stones make movement easier, reduce slipping, and help keep the surface cleaner in the damp forest environment. Each stone is carried back, tested in place, and carefully adjusted multiple times before being set. A stone placed too high can trip the foot. A stone placed too low can create water pools. Because of this, no stone is placed randomly. Each one is aligned, checked, and positioned as part of a larger structure. From scattered pieces of stone, the floor slowly takes shape, flatter, stronger, and more functional for survival life. He begins paving the floor from inside the shelter, gradually extending it toward the entrance. Step by step, the raw earth floor, damp and prone to mud, slowly disappears, replaced by a more solid stone surface. Each stone is placed with intention, aligned in height, angle, and spacing to form a continuous structure. This floor is not just for appearance. It must withstand daily ash from the fire. It must resist moisture from persistent rain, and it must endure constant foot traffic from everyday survival life. This is not decoration. It is a foundation of stability, durability, cleanliness, and a firm feeling under every step. At the front porch, he builds a low stone barrier along the edge of the entrance. Stone by stone, he lays them tightly together, forming a stable boundary to keep soil from being washed away during heavy rain. This is not just a simple retaining edge. It helps stabilize the entire entrance area, preventing rainwater from eroding the ground and damaging the structure he has built. At the same time, the stone barrier creates a clear separation between the organized living space and the surrounding wild terrain. Small details like this are not just technical adjustments. They make the shelter feel more structured, more intentional, and more prepared for everyday life in the wilderness. From the front porch, he begins building stone steps leading down to the stream. Instead of a straight or rushed layout, he follows the natural slope of the terrain, placing stone blocks as the structure of each step, then topping them with flat stones to create a safer walking surface. A rough dirt slope may seem harmless during the day, but after rain it becomes slippery and dangerous, especially when carrying water, food, or heavy supplies. So each step is not just a step, but a support point. He adjusts the height, checks the stability, and only then places the next stone. Layer by layer, the path slowly takes shape. These stone steps make the route safer, cleaner, and more reliable. And more importantly, they directly connect the shelter to its most vital resource, the stream. He carries a backpack to the stream and collects small pebbles along the riverbank. No rush, no strict selection, only stones that fit the hand, smooth enough, solid enough. Back at the shelter, he spreads them along both sides of the porch, handful by handful, layer by layer. These small pebbles begin to make a noticeable difference. When it rains, water no longer pools on the ground. It filters through the gaps between the stones and drains away more quickly. Less mud forms. The entrance stays cleaner. The ground remains drier over time. At first glance, it looks like a finishing touch, but in reality, it is a practical solution for daily living. A dry, stable ground makes movement easier, maintenance simpler, and the living space far more comfortable. He returns to the forest to gather wood for the next stages of the shelter. No haste, no random selection. He carefully observes each tree, assessing its straightness, strength, and dryness before making a decision. Suitable logs are cut, trimmed, and tied into bundles for easier transport. This is not just material collection. It is preparation for larger structures ahead, where each piece of wood will become a frame, a support, or part of a growing survival system. The selected logs are prepared for processing. Cut, measure, adjust. Each step is repeated steadily, without rush, without wasted motion. The log is divided according to the planned dimensions. Then he begins sawing. The blade enters the wood grain, slow, steady, controlled. Each plank separates from the raw trunk, revealing a flatter, more defined surface. Nothing is wasted, no random cuts, only precision and calculation in every stroke of the saw. Once finished, the planks are stacked neatly and carried back to the shelter in bundles heavier, but more valuable, forming the foundation for the next structures yet to be built. The finished planks are brought back to the shelter and stacked neatly to one side. They are not used immediately. He moves on to the finishing stage. Taking out a hand plane, he begins refining each surface. Each stroke runs along the grain, slow, even, controlled. The rough outer layer is gradually removed, revealing a smoother, flatter surface. Every plank is checked again and planed further until it reaches the required finish, not just for appearance, but to reduce splintering, prevent warping, and improve durability in the humid forest environment. Each plank, through his hands, becomes more prepared for the structure ahead. He begins cutting mortises into each wooden plank. No rushing, no rough work. Every position is measured and marked before chiseling. The chisel meets the wood, firm, slow, precise. Bits of wood are carefully removed, forming clean joints designed to fit together. Once the pieces are ready, he starts assembling them. One plank connects to another, slotting in, tightening, aligning each angle. Separate wooden parts gradually come together to form a solid door frame, no longer individual planks, but a defined structure with purpose, ready to open and close, protecting the interior of the shelter. On the round wooden poles, he begins cutting mortises at both ends. Every cut is pre-measured. There is no room for error. He rotates the log, checks the grain direction, and only then places the chisel. Tap, tap, layer by layer, wood is removed slowly and under control. The joints are not just for joining, but for locking the entire structure once assembled. When the main pieces are ready, he starts building the door frame. One beam at a time is lifted into place, fitted, squared, and tightened by hand pressure. The frame gradually takes shape, solid, straight, and clearly defined. Next come the horizontal slats inside the door panel. He arranges them one by one, placing them so tightly together that almost no gap remains. Each slat is tapped gently into place, then secured with wooden pins driven through the structure, locking everything together. This is not just assembly, it is compression, turning separate pieces into one unified body. Then he installs a simple handle, just enough to grip, just enough to open, no excess details. Once complete, the door panel is lifted into the frame. He raises it, adjusts the hinges, tests the movement. One swing, then another, stopping only when the fit is smooth and precise. Finally, the entire door is set into the entrance. One motion, one threshold, and from scattered wood, a clear boundary between inside and outside is formed. He uses mortar mixed with small stones to seal the gaps between the wall and the door frame. Each opening is filled and compacted to prevent wind or water from entering. Once finished, the door frame becomes integrated with the wall, stronger and more stable. From the remaining wooden planks, he begins building a beehive box. Nothing is wasted. Each plank is selected again, cut, adjusted, and joined according to precise dimensions. He frames the structure, hammer strikes, edges aligned, corners tightened. Tap, tap, tap. The box slowly takes shape, sealed, sturdy, yet still allowing necessary airflow. Inside, he installs parallel wooden frames. Each bar is spaced evenly, not too tight, not too wide, allowing bees to attach, move, and build their comb naturally. Each frame becomes a foundation for the colony's growth. No interference needed, only the right conditions. A simple structure, but intentional, and from leftover wood, a small ecosystem begins to form. He begins carefully separating each piece of honeycomb. No sudden movement, no rush, only small, controlled motions, preserving as much of the hive's structure as possible without breaking its internal stability. Everything happens in silence. Every step is pre-planned, slow and precise. No unnecessary vibration, no harsh contact. Then he uses a small mesh-ended tube, gently, slowly, separating the queen bee from the colony. This is the critical point. Even the smallest mistake could destabilize the entire hive. The queen is placed onto a small circular bamboo frame, light enough to avoid stress, but stable enough to keep her secure. Once everything is in place, he brings the honeycomb closer, and immediately the scent spreads. Honey, old hive, and the presence of the queen. The colony begins to respond. Slowly, naturally, small clusters gather, then expand, like a current returning to its source. Not force, only guidance, step by step. Once the hive stabilizes, he transports the honeycomb and the entire colony back to the shelter. Inside the prepared wooden box, he begins securing each piece of honeycomb onto the internal frames. Lift, place, adjust, tighten, step by step, no rush, no deviation. Each frame is locked firmly into place, forming a support system that allows the hive to grow without collapsing, warping, or breaking apart. The queen bee is placed at the center, surrounded by worker bees, where natural order quickly reestablishes itself like an instinct already encoded. He pauses for a moment, a final check. Everything is stable, nothing excess, nothing missing. Then he closes the lid, a decisive motion. The interior is immediately sealed, stable, secure, and inside that space, a new beehive begins to form, grow, and continue its life within the survival environment he has created. He places the kettle on the stove directly above the steady flame. He walks through the forest, carefully watching the damp, leaf-covered ground. One by one, he collects the forest snails crawling across the wet earth after the rain, placing them into his basket. On his way back, while crossing the familiar stream, he spots a crab hiding beneath a rock along the bank. With a quick movement, he catches it and adds it to the day's collection. Back at the shelter, the kettle is already simmering over the fire. He adds a handful of tea leaves and a small piece of honeycomb wax. As the heat rises, the tea slowly releases its aroma while the honeycomb melts gradually, adding a natural sweetness and fragrance to the brew. Steam drifts from the kettle, filling the shelter with warmth and signaling that a hot drink is nearly ready. Back at the shelter, he carefully washes the forest snails and the crab he caught earlier. The ingredients are cleaned thoroughly, placed into a pot, and set over the steady fire. The flames burn gently beneath as the water slowly heats. The aroma of cooking food begins to mix with the scent of burning wood in the evening air. While waiting for dinner to cook, he takes his cup of tea and sits outside the shelter. Warm steam rises slowly from the cup as he takes small sips, quietly watching the forest fade into the evening light. No rush, no unnecessary noise, only the calm that follows a day of work. When the meal is ready, he begins enjoying the food he gathered himself. Rich forest snails, fresh stream crab caught earlier that day. Every bite carries the flavor of the wilderness and the effort required to obtain it. A simple meal, yet full of nourishment, enough to restore energy and bring a satisfying end to another day of survival. As daylight breaks, the first thing he does is check on his beehive. He walks over to the wooden box, gently opens the lid, and observes the activity inside. The colony has begun adapting to its new home, with worker bees moving diligently between the frames and reorganizing the hive. He checks the condition of the queen, the comb frames, and the overall activity of the colony to ensure everything is progressing normally. After a few moments of observation, he closes the lid. A simple start to the day, yet an important step in ensuring the hive continues to grow and thrive. With the shelter now protected, warmer, and easier to live in, he begins thinking beyond the house itself. A true forest home needs more than walls and fire. It needs water, food, and a reason to keep growing. So his attention turns to the ground in front of the shelter, where a small garden can begin. In front of the shelter, he begins transforming the hillside into a series of terraced garden beds. The ground slopes down toward the stream. During heavy rain, valuable topsoil can easily be washed away, making cultivation difficult. To solve this, he starts building low stone retaining walls. One stone at a time, each piece is placed, stacked, and locked into position to hold the soil in place. Terrace after terrace begins to emerge, dividing the unstable slope into smaller, more stable planting areas. The work is slow but steady. Every completed wall means more soil retained and more growing space created for the future. What was once an erosion-prone hillside gradually becomes a structured and productive garden. One day it will provide vegetables, additional food, and a touch of green life in the wilderness. It is more than a garden. It is an investment in the future, a reason to return, to care for the land, and to remain connected to the shelter he has built. After completing the first terrace beds, he walks through the forest, searching for healthy plants with slender, attractive leaves. He does not uproot them randomly. Each plant is carefully observed and selected before being dug up with its roots and surrounding soil intact. One by one, the plants are carried back to the shelter. He places them on the highest terrace, where they can be easily monitored and are less affected by heavy rain runoff. Each planting hole is prepared with care. Every plant is set gently into place and covered with soil. Gradually, the small green plants stand upright in their new home. A small change, yet one that brings life to the garden, turning it into more than a source of food, but a space that is nurtured and cared for over time. From his backpack, he takes out a packet of vegetable seeds that he had prepared earlier. He pours the seeds into a small pot and walks along the newly completed terrace beds. Handful by handful, the seeds are scattered evenly across the loosened soil. Not too dense, not too sparse. Just enough space for each seed to take root and grow. Next, he bundles several bamboo tubes together and ties them securely, creating a simple water-carrying tool. He walks down to the stream, fills it with water, and carries it back to the garden. Each terrace bed is watered carefully. The water slowly seeps into the soil, providing the moisture needed for the newly planted seeds. The work is done. Now nature takes over. As time passes, the first green shoots begin to emerge. Tiny seedlings push through the soil, reaching toward the light. What was once only stone and earth gradually turns green, a sign of life, a future food source, and a reward for the effort invested in the land. From the forest bamboo, he selects straight, mature stalks and carries them back to the shelter. The bamboo is split lengthwise into narrow strips, then split again into thinner strands. Gradually, long, flexible, and uniform weaving strips emerge through patient work. Then he begins weaving, one strip laid down, another woven through. Layer after layer, the bamboo strands interlock tightly, slowly taking the shape of baskets, small trays, and containers for storing food gathered from the stream. This work does not require strength. It requires patience and time. Once finished, the handcrafted bamboo items are neatly arranged beside the shelter. They are lightweight, durable, and highly practical. Useful for carrying fish, crabs, and snails from the stream. Useful for washing food by the water. Useful for drying, serving, and storing supplies around the shelter. In a life built by hand, these simple objects hold value far beyond their appearance. Because when everything is made with your own effort, even the smallest basket becomes an essential part of everyday survival. Wearing a small basket at his side, he walks along the stream once again. The water flows slowly between the rocks, clear yet full of hidden life beneath the surface. Crabs hide in stone crevices, while small fish shelter under ledges and calm pools. He moves slowly, step by step on the wet stones. Observe first, decide second, then reach into the water. Each catch is quick and precise, yet careful enough not to disturb the current. Because of this approach, the water remains clear, and the environment is barely disrupted. He takes only what is needed, no excess, no waste. Enough for dinner, enough to continue tomorrow, and enough to maintain balance between man and stream. That evening, the meal comes from two familiar places: the terrace garden and the stream. Young sprouts, just emerging, still carrying the freshness of the soil. Small fish and fresh crabs brought from the slow-moving water between the rocks. Nothing is expensive. Nothing is excessive. Everything is just enough. Exactly as it was gathered throughout the day. The greens carry the beginning of a new garden, where each seed has started to grow little by little. The fish and crabs carry the patience of the stream, where everything moves slowly and naturally. And the fire at the center, steady and enduring, ties it all together into a simple yet meaningful meal, not just for nourishment, but as a reflection of labor, time, and balance with nature. When dinner is ready, he brings the pot outside to the front of the shelter. He sits down in his usual spot, where he can see both the garden and the path leading down to the stream. No rush, no noise. He begins eating slowly, tasting the blend of vegetables, fish, and crab. The warmth of the meal spreads through the cool evening air. The quiet forest, the faint glow of fire, and his steady breathing create a rare moment of stillness. This is not just a meal for hunger. It is the result of an entire day's work. From the garden, the stream, and the fire he built himself. And in that simplicity, everything feels complete. As morning arrives, he gently opens the beehive box. Using a thin bamboo strip, he carefully cuts a small piece of honeycomb and squeezes out the golden honey. Inside the shelter, water has already been boiled. He pours the hot water into a cup, adds a little honey, and stirs it well. Soon, a warm cup of honey tea is ready. Sitting in front of the shelter, he slowly enjoys each sip while watching the forest awaken around him. A gentle breeze moves through the trees, creating a peaceful start to the day. Before long, the weather begins to change. Raindrops fall from the sky and quickly spread across the forest. Carrying his cup of tea, he heads back inside the shelter, staying dry and preserving his body heat. After the rain, the air becomes cooler and more refreshing. The garden responds quickly to the extra moisture, with vegetables growing greener and healthier than before. He carefully harvests a small portion of fresh vegetables for the day's meal. Next, he loosens the soil around the plants and adds fertilizer. This simple task enriches the soil with nutrients and helps the crops continue growing strong. Nearby, the tomato plants are thriving. As they grow taller and begin producing fruit, they need proper support to prevent the stems from bending or breaking. To solve this, he decides to build a support frame using dry bamboo. He cuts several bamboo poles to the right size and firmly places them into the ground. Horizontal pieces are then tied between the poles, creating a simple yet sturdy structure. With the frame complete, the tomato plants now have strong support, allowing them to grow upward and produce a healthier harvest in the weeks ahead. After bringing several large round logs back from the forest, he begins the woodworking process. Holding a carpenter's square and a pencil, he carefully measures and marks the exact locations where mortise joints will be cut at the ends of each log. Once the measurements are complete, he uses a saw to make the initial cuts. With a hammer and chisel, he gradually removes the excess wood, shaping each joint with precision. Every careful strike brings the mortises closer to a perfect fit, allowing the logs to connect securely with minimal fastening materials. With the joinery completed, he moves on to surface finishing. Using a hand plane, he smoothly shaves the outer surface of each round log, removing rough spots and imperfections. Pass after pass, the timber becomes cleaner, smoother, and better prepared for assembly. These detailed woodworking steps not only improve the strength of the structure, but also enhance its durability and overall craftsmanship. With the wooden posts fully prepared, he begins setting the foundation for the structure in front of the shelter. Using a shovel, he digs 2 deep holes on either side of the porch, carefully keeping them aligned and evenly spaced. Once the holes are ready, the large mortised posts are lifted into position. Each post is carefully lowered into the ground, ensuring it stands straight and balanced. He then fills and compacts the soil around the base of each post, securing them firmly in place. To strengthen the installation further, he applies mortar around the footing, sealing the surrounding area and providing additional stability against rain and erosion. Step by step, the rough timber is transformed into a strong, supporting framework, ready to carry the next stage of construction. With the two support posts firmly secured, he brings back another large log to complete the upper framework. Placing the log on the ground, he carefully measures and cuts matching joints at both ends, ensuring they fit perfectly onto the standing posts. Once the joinery is finished, he lifts the heavy timber into position and slowly sets it across the tops of the two posts. The joints lock neatly into place, connecting the three pieces of wood into a single solid structure. Within moments, a sturdy crossbeam takes shape. This important component helps distribute weight evenly, strengthens the overall frame, and provides the foundation for the next stages of construction. To prepare for the porch roof, he uses a wooden stick as a guide to determine the exact positions where the support beams will connect the crossbeam to the wall of the house. After checking the height and angle, he carefully marks each location on the wall. Next, he picks up a hammer and chisel and begins carving along the marked lines. Working patiently, he removes material little by little, creating precise recesses sized to fit the wooden beams. After some careful work, 3 mounting slots are completed. These openings will serve as anchor points for the roof structure, creating a strong connection between the porch roof and the main building. With the wall joints finished, the framework for an A-shaped porch roof is beginning to take shape, bringing the project one step closer to completion. The next wooden beams are carefully processed with the same precision as before. Each connection point is measured accurately, and every cut is marked with care before the mortise joints are carved. Every detail serves one purpose: to ensure a perfect fit during assembly. Once the beams are ready, he lifts them into position one by one. Extending from the wall toward the front crossbeam, the timber members connect seamlessly. Each joint locks tightly in place, forming a unified structure with minimal need for additional fasteners. In a short time, the A-shaped porch frame begins to fully emerge. The intersecting wooden lines form a strong, bachelorist structure capable of bearing weight and resisting external forces. From rough timber logs, a complete architectural frame has taken shape, creating a solid, sheltered space right in front of the house. After completing the carved mounting slots on the wall, he moves on to reinforcement. Using a mixture of mortar and small stones, he carefully fills and seals the openings prepared for the wooden frame supports. Layer by layer, he packs the mortar tightly, embedding stones to strengthen the bond. He smooths and presses the surface to ensure strong adhesion to the existing wall and to eliminate any gaps or weak points. This step secures the mounting areas for the wooden structure, while also increasing the wall's durability, helping prevent water infiltration and improving long-term structural strength. Once finished, the recessed slots are fully sealed and reinforced, ready to support the upcoming frame installation. He continues by selecting the remaining small wooden pieces, carefully carving each one. Every piece is shaped with precise mortise joints at both ends, ensuring a tight and secure fit when assembled. Once all components are ready, he gradually joins them together, forming a sturdy wooden frame. Each connection locks into place, turning scattered pieces of wood into a unified structure capable of withstanding pressure. After the frame is completed, he mounts it onto a large saw blade. Every fixing point is carefully aligned to ensure balance and safe operation during use. Within a few steps, a large-scale hand saw tool takes shape. Stronger, more stable, and well-suited for heavy-duty woodcutting tasks in a survival setting. he takes a small saw and returns to the familiar forest. The quiet atmosphere is broken only by steady, rhythmic sawing sounds as he cuts through pre-selected tree trunks. Each time a log falls, he doesn't pause for long. He quickly trims the branches, then carries the heavy sections back to the storage area. His footsteps are firm against the damp ground left by the recent rain. At the collection point, the logs are neatly stacked in stable, aligned rows. Gradually, a natural timber stockpile takes shape, ready for further processing and construction work ahead. Once enough timber has been gathered, he moves on to heavy processing. The large saw is mounted onto the prepared frame, forming a stable cutting system with greater power and control. He begins ripping the large logs into uniform planks. Each cut is long, steady, and precise, as the raw timber is gradually transformed into smooth, even surfaces. The dense inner core is not wasted. He continues processing it, cutting it into square beams that are strong, consistent, and structurally reliable. Every piece is sorted and organized according to its intended use in the build. From raw tree trunks, he is turning natural materials into finished construction elements, planks, beams, and structural frames, gradually forming a durable building system in the wilderness. After cutting and shaping the timber, he moves on to surface finishing. Using a hand plane, he runs long, steady strokes along the square beams. The rough outer layer is gradually removed, leaving the surface smoother, more even, and better prepared for assembly. Once the beams reach the desired finish, he carries them onto the porch and organizes them into neat stacks. The workspace becomes more structured as materials are prepared for the final stage of treatment. He then takes out a small blowtorch. With a controlled flame, he lightly passes over the surface of the wood. The heat slightly darkens the outer layer, helping to dry it, harden the surface, and create a natural protective finish. After treatment, each beam becomes more durable and stable, ready for installation and load-bearing use in the upcoming structure. One by one, the processed square beams are lifted onto the roof frame. In the quiet workspace, he positions them diagonally, running from the roof peak down to both sides, forming the characteristic structure of an A-shaped roof. Each beam is carefully aligned to maintain even spacing, ensuring the overall frame remains balanced and stable. Nothing is placed hastily. Every position is measured and adjusted on site. Once properly positioned, he secures each beam using sturdy wooden pegs. The joints lock tightly, reinforcing the structure and making the entire roof system solid and unified. Once the main frame is firmly in place, he moves on to the smaller wooden beams. These elements serve as crucial connectors, helping complete the roof structure and distribute weight more evenly across the frame. One by one, he lifts each beam and lays it horizontally across the main rafters. He carefully adjusts the spacing, ensuring uniform alignment and preventing weak points in the structure. After positioning each piece correctly, he secures it tightly to the frame below. The joints are firmly fixed, making the entire roof system more unified, durable, and resistant to wind and rain. Layer by layer, the roof gradually takes shape, transforming the rough framework into a complete, stable, and well-structured shelter. With a backpack on his shoulders, he walks along a familiar forest trail, moving through the quiet wilderness toward a distant stream. The sound of footsteps blends with the rustling wind and leaves as he approaches the water. At the stream, water flows over rocks with a steady, calming sound. He carefully scans the area, searching for thin, smooth stones with suitable shapes. Each stone is selected with care, avoiding those that are cracked or too rough. Once he gathers enough, he packs them into his backpack and heads back. The weight on his back is more than just material. It represents the foundation for future construction work. Each trip like this gradually builds up essential natural resources, preparing for stronger and more durable structures ahead. Sitting in front of the shelter, he carefully places each stone on a flat surface and begins a precise, methodical process. His focus narrows as he studies the natural structure of each piece, identifying the best direction for splitting. Before working, he uses a ruler and pencil to draw clear guidelines on the stone's surface. These markings define the final shape with accuracy and control. Once marked, he gently begins splitting the stones along the lines. Each strike is carefully controlled to prevent unwanted shattering, gradually turning thick pieces into thinner slabs. From rough, natural stones, he continues shaping them into more uniform, squared blocks. Each finished piece is placed aside, becoming essential material for upcoming construction work. Slow, precise actions transform raw stone into structured building material, ready for stronger and more stable construction. After the square stone blocks have been fully shaped, he carries them up to the porch and organizes them into separate groups for easier handling. The porch is now functioning as a small workshop where every task is done manually but with high precision. Using available wooden materials, he assembles a simple hand drill frame. The structure is firmly anchored to the ground or work surface, providing a stable support for the drilling shaft. The hand crank is designed to deliver smooth, consistent rotational force, keeping the drill bit aligned during operation. Once the tool is ready, he begins placing each stone block into a fixed position. Before drilling, he carefully rechecks the marked points on the stone surface to ensure absolute accuracy. He then slowly lowers the drill bit and starts turning the crank steadily by hand. With each slow but continuous rotation, the drill gradually bites into the hard stone. He maintains controlled pressure to prevent cracking or structural damage. Fine stone dust begins to appear, indicating that the hole is forming cleanly and precisely. After each stone is drilled, he performs a final inspection to confirm the hole's position and depth. The finished pieces are then sorted into groups, ready for the next assembly stage of the structure. Through careful manual work, he is transforming raw stone into precise technical components, contributing to a stronger and more durable building system. After finishing the preparation work, he carries the drilled stone blocks up onto the roof frame of the porch. He carefully arranges them nearby to make the installation process smoother and more organized. He starts from the bottom row. Each stone is placed precisely according to the roof's slope, ensuring tight alignment and consistent spacing between layers. One by one, the stones are lifted into position and fitted onto the pre-drilled connection points. He then secures each stone using wooden pegs inserted through the drilled holes. Every driven peg tightens the connection, locking the stone firmly to the underlying frame and preventing movement from wind or weight. He continues laying the stones row by row from bottom to top, each layer overlapping the previous one in a calculated pattern, similar to natural roofing tiles. The process is steady and repetitive, but highly secure. When the final stone is placed, the porch roof is fully completed. A stone-covered canopy has taken shape, solid, durable, and capable of withstanding harsh outdoor conditions over time. After finishing the stone roof, he installs wooden planks around the porch frame. Each board is lifted into place, carefully aligned, and secured tightly with wooden pegs. He works side by side, closing each section without gaps. The planks lock together, providing both protection and added structural strength. Once completed, the porch becomes a solid enclosed structure, well protected from wind and rain and integrated into the natural surroundings. The porch roof is finally complete. Layers of stone, wood, and frame elements are tightly connected, forming a solid structure in front of the house. The sound of tools has faded, leaving behind a finished construction, silent yet strong. It is more than just a shelter. It is the result of a long process of work, planning, and persistence in the wilderness. Every small detail contributes to the strength of the whole structure. Looking back, all stages come to an end, leaving a safe and stable living space that blends naturally with its surroundings. A project completed, and the closing of a long journey of building. In the heart of the tropical forest, life reveals itself in its most raw and generous form. Wildflowers bloom beneath dense canopies, and ripe forest fruits hang quietly from the branches, each becoming a natural source of nourishment. Without cultivation or artificial harvesting, nature provides its purest offerings. Every step through the forest is an exploration, and every sign of fruit is an opportunity for survival. In this silence, the forest is not only a shelter, but also a vast table, sustaining life through its natural. In the tropical forest, where life follows its most ancient and natural cycle, humans learn to observe, adapt, and listen to nature. Wildflowers and ripe forest fruits are not just food. They are reminders that life is always present in its simplest and most complete form. When a shelter is built and a green garden begins to grow, it is not only the result of labor, but also a connection between humans and the natural world, a delicate yet lasting balance. This journey in the forest is not only about survival, but also about rediscovering slowness, stillness, and the essential values of life. Thank you for staying until the very end. See you in the next journey, where nature continues to tell its own story.